A lot of gamers out there tend to find a genre or game series that they enjoy and stick to it because they know that this particular genre or game can satisfy their gaming needs. But what do you do when that dreaded gaming lethargy sets in? It's so common for gamers to become bored with their games, especially since games are getting larger in size and scope in recent years.
Always the same old shit.
It's such a sad state of affairs. You end up scrolling through your gaming library multiple times but nothing screams out at you. So instead you sulk over your own annoying lack of enthusiasm for games that once had you as excited as a kid at Christmas. But there are ways to rekindle the enjoyment you once had that doesn't involve turning off your console. Perish the thought. Hello, I'm Craig.
And I'm Heather, and today we want to highlight a few ways that you can reignite your gaming passion and get you out of that awful gaming slump. The first thing we would recommend doing is trying out a new genre of gaming. Let's be honest, the majority of gamers default to RPGs, JRPGs, FPS games and or MMOs, but there are so many other fantastic genres out there, some of which you likely haven't even heard of.
If you normally play games competitively or on hard mode, then why not turn the heat down and try a light-hearted action platformer or puzzle games such as Crash, Spyro, Ratchet & Clank, Sly Cooper, Tide of Tasmanian Tiger, Jak and Daxter, Ape Escape, Kena, Bridge of Spirits, or even a LEGO game. There is a lot of fun to be had from a more simplistic premise, and the game being separated by levels means that you can play at your own pace and just relax.
Simulation games are another great genre to try. Simulators allow you to do things virtually that you enjoy doing or could only ever dream of doing in real life, like therapeutic cleaning and organising, driving, farming, cooking, flying. But there's loads of sims out there.
Ever wanted to be a bumblebee? Try Bee Simulator, you weirdo. Ever wanted to be a goat for some reason? Well, once again, try Goat Simulator, which is a really silly game that will make you go running back to your older games with a big fat smile on your face.
Our shared favourite simulator game is Power Wash, which is such an addictive game and satisfies that bit of OCD that resides in us all. Some popular simulator games include Microsoft Flight Simulator, because who hasn't wanted to fly a plane at some point in their lives? Stardew Valley, which is a farming sim, The Sims Life Simulator, where you can watch your creations live better lives than you, House Flipper, Car Mechanic Simulator. Any kind of simulation game you can think of, chances are it exists in some form or another, so go check them out.
Continuing with games that are less action, more experience, you could always try games that aren't necessarily simulators, but they do offer unique experiences. These games are more about the journey itself, where you can peacefully roam around taking in the surroundings, perhaps learning tidbits about the subject matter or have some other micro agenda. Games like Journey, Spirit of the North, What Remains of Edith Finch, Flower, or even Detroit Become Human, which doesn't necessarily fall into the unique experience genre, but it does have unique, less demanding gameplay.
Then there's resource games, which likely makes you think of ball-ache mechanics like hunger and thirst depletion, having to stay warm, protecting your stuff from raiders, or a depleting light source or oxygen supply. If this is not something you enjoy, more often than not, you can disable the survival elements so that you can simply focus on creating things in peace. Games like The Long Dark, Minecraft, Subnautica, and even Palworld can be very addictive.
Those are just a few ideas, and we haven't even mentioned horror games, arcade games, retro games, or indies. I would just take a look at your default games or genres and choose something wildly different. If you normally play FPSs or linear narrative games, then give an open world game a try. It might blow your mind to see how huge and freeform video games can be.
If you sneer at JRPGs, then give one a chance and you might discover a new passion. JRPGs as a genre, rather than the development origin, have certain identifiable characteristics that make them so enjoyable and are an excellent idea if you're bored of the same old stuff in games. A lot of JRPGs have very intricate stories, rich world building, often dungeon crawling, excellent combat systems, and whimsical casts of playable characters. There's a lot of things that JRPGs do flawlessly that Western games can never seem to sufficiently emulate, and it's because of these things that JRPGs are so popular. I don't think any other gaming genre has spawned so many long-running Roman numeral game series that are revered by fans. There is a reason that JRPG lovers are such a dedicated and passionate fanbase, so why not go and find out what that reason is? You might be pleasantly surprised, or shocked, confused and disgusted. Either outcome is bound to cure your gaming boredom.
Hurry up.
If trying out new game genres hasn't solved your gaming lethargy, then why not try making your own fun in the games you already love? You could go trophy or achievement hunting, experiment with mods, complete optional side stuff like building a house in Skyrim for instance. Fishing is often an overlooked mechanic in many games, or you could even set some self-imposed challenges. You could also revisit an RPG and choose to embrace a different playstyle.
For example, if you normally create a tank build for Kratos in God of War, why not try making a heavy runic build instead? Or if you normally play as a stealth archer in Skyrim, why not spice up your Dragonborn by truly thinking outside the box and being an alchemical warrior of sorts? Some games have a moral system whereby your dialogue choices and actions can have consequences and impact the game in interesting ways. So why not try being truly evil if the game allows a dark path? Games like Biomutant, Bioshock, The Outer Worlds, Fallout 3, Starfield, Mass Effect, and the more retro KOTOR. Pretty much any Bethesda game excluding Doom, but let's be honest, there's no good in Doom.
It is often games that allow more freedom that enable players to make their own fun. Games like Pokemon, RDR2, GTA, The Witcher 3, the open world Zelda games, there's no end to the possibilities. Especially in a game like Skyrim, perhaps you could try to beat the game using only specific weapons. Do a speedrun, heighten the difficulty setting, disable waypoints, tutorials or hints, play differently or do something amusing and wacky.
Most recently I decided to revisit Starfield to see how the patches and mods may improve the game, and I made the decision to become a notorious toilet roll thief dubbed the Bog Roll Bandit, which somehow made the playthrough more interesting and funny. Speaking of Starfield, Bethesda made creations available which allows players to add mods to the game and basically have made Starfield your playground.
Or if you really truly hate yourself, you could try and get all the platinum time relics in Crash Bandicoot or try to get the perfects in Crash 4. There are so many things you can do to restore the fun. There is an untapped treasure trove of forgotten gems called retro gaming. Some of you might be old like us and have experienced the joys of these simple yet fantastic games, and some of you might be young and missed out on the 90s gaming boom. But trust us, some older games have a charm that cannot be recreated even if the games have already been remastered. Often remastering the games consequently removes said charm. So break out an old N64, PS1, PS2 or original Xbox console and relive the best that retro gaming has to offer. Or if you really want to go back in time, break out the Mega Drive, Game Boy, SNES, Atari, and I bet some viewers haven't even heard of the latter ones we mentioned, but oh well.
Games like 40 Winks, Tombi, Abe's Odyssey, the original Tomb Raider, Rayman, Zelda Ocarina of Time on N64, older Pokemon games, Banjo-Kazooie, Super Mario 64, the original God of War games, 007 Nightfire, older Ratchet & Clank games, Final Fantasy VII Original, the Mana series, and so many other games are solid and hold their own even today. Albeit they have a different vibe from modern games, and controls might take some getting used to, but there's nothing like a hit of nostalgia to banish your modern gaming boredom. Personally, I always tend to gravitate towards the N64 and PS2 consoles when I want a hit of nostalgia.
That's some good nostalgia.
It's good stuff.
Nostalgia. I am definitely something of a nostalgic gamer, as I still revisit my old Game Boy Color from time to time, and I am both extremely proud and aware of how nerdy it is that I have all 151 Pokemon in Pokemon Yellow. Some PS1 and PS2 games will always hold a special place in my heart, such as the original Crash trilogy and Crash Team Racing, as well as the original GTA trilogy on PS2, and even the original Halo, which still holds up incredibly well on the original Xbox.
Believe in what they call the silent cartographer.
A lot of the time when games include minigames, it can induce an eye roll, but sometimes there's nothing better than taking some time out to do something different from all of the other stuff that the game has to offer. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is great for this, although they do shove minigames down your throat a bit too much. In this huge second instalment in what's intended to be a 3-part reimagining of the original Final Fantasy VII game, you can play a total of 25 minigames. Queen's Blood, Fort Condor, Galactic Saviours, Moogle Mischief, Jump Frog, Pirates Barrage, Gears and Gambits, Desert Rush, Cactuar Crush, Glide de Chocobo, to name a few.
Is that actually how you say it? Have you heard people say it in the game? Because when we did our first video on the remake, we didn't know how to say it.
What,
Cactuar.
Cactuar?
Is that how you say it?
I have no idea.
Because I've never heard anyone say it. Fallout 4 is another game that has a great selection of minigames that provide respite from the chaos of post-apocalyptic life. Like the rest of the game, the Nuka World DLC is very open-ended, since the more you play and win, the more Nuka tickets you win, which can be exchanged for prizes that rotate every few days. Prizes can range from souvenirs to weapons with a legendary effect and power armor. There are a total of 5 minigames that require Nuka tokens to play: Atomic Rollers, Whack-A-Comet, Hoop Shot, Nuka Zapper Race, and Bandit Roundup.
These aren't the only instances of gameception with games within games. Of course, there's Gwent from The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which really grew on me, Pazak in KOTOR games, Machine Strike in Horizon Forbidden West, Triple Triad in Final Fantasy VIII, Karaoke in Yakuza games, Animal Sanctuary and Archery minigames in Ghost of Tsushima DLC. Red Dead Redemption 2 has poker, blackjack, dominoes, and 5-finger fillet.
And then there's my love-hate relationship with Mass Effect 3. In this game's Citadel DLC, there are at least 3 different simulations, such as the Rock'em Sock'em Robots minigame, the Space Combat Sim, and the best one, which is the Battle Simulation, which allows you and a handful of different squad mates to battle 3 different types of enemies in various locales. All for money!
Sometimes even fishing in games can be very relaxing and enjoyable. Tales of Arise and Berseria, Final Fantasy 15, Red Dead Redemption 2, Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Dana all have very good fishing systems.
Nice work, dude!
Mon games are perhaps the most famous, yet unknown and underexperienced gaming genre of them all. This is primarily due to the overbearing success of the Pokemon franchise. Believe it or not, Pokemon games are not the only games out there with monster taming as a core mechanic. They are merely the most recognisable games of this genre, coupled with Palworld that has taken the world by storm.
And even Palworld cannot get out from under the shadow of Pokemon, and pretty soon under the stern fist of Nintendo's dream team of lawyers, even though their case for patent infringement seems to fall flat the moment you realise that every single game that falls under the genre of monster tamer shares very similar mechanics. They all have creatures of varying types that you can catch by throwing a trap at them so that you can have them fight on your behalf in battle.
These kind of games can be tons of fun, and they generally don't have strong narratives either, meaning it's easy to jump in and out of the games without losing track of where you are. Some monster taming games are cutesy pie with adorable creatures and a retro feel, like Nexomon, Ni no Kuni, Monster Hunter Stories, World of Final Fantasy Maxima, Koromon, Monster Sanctuary, Dragon Quest Monsters, and more. Monster. Then there's your more edgy Mon games that feel distinctly different, like Cassette Beasts, Palworld, Persona, Digimon, Shin Megami Tensei, Monster Hunter World, and Monster Hunter Rise.
Then there's the games that genre straddle with monster taming not at the forefront, like Ape Escape, Slime Rancher, Hogwarts Legacy's Beasts, Octopath Traveler's Summonable Monsters, and more. These games are such a great way to spice up your gaming life. You might find a new passion, but if it's not, it's a nice way to bide your time until your gaming lethargy has passed and you can return to the games you adore. Your monster taming game will still be there the next time this dreaded state kicks in.
So, there we have it. 5 ways to reignite your gaming passion and get rid of that pesky gamer lethargy. There are other things you can try, specific games we will recommend, but do consider those entries.
Let us know in the comments what you tend to do when that horrid feeling of gamer boredom sets in. I've been Heather.
And I've been Craig.
This is Amalgamingle, and thanks for watching.